Alright, we are gonna go ahead and continue the Elden Ring storyline. We're gonna learn about the Elden Ring demigods now, which I am particularly really excited about. I think, what is it? My heart moves for a lot of the demigods. Like, I think, Malenia is really hot, and Ranni's very hot. And other than that, the other hot person I find is, the pot man. He's not a demigod, but he should be. So yeah, let's go ahead and get this started.
The demigods are each and all the direct offspring of Queen Marika. There was Godwyn, Morgott, Mohg, Radahn, Rykard,
Yeah, I want to learn about the
Ranni,
Elden Ring lore.
Miquella, and
Real
Malenia,
history, who
Blade of
cares?
Miquella.
Elden Ring history?
Malenia,
Yes.
Blade of Miquella. Malenia, Blade of Miquella, and Malenia. Not again. All of these demigods.
Yeah.
Fallen from grace.
At least
by
she
the
was
time
hot when
Catherine
she, like,
occurred.
murders you.
But in this video, I want to mostly talk about the origins of these characters. Who these demigods were before the fall. And
Ooh,
some of
okay, this
these
is gonna be fun.
demigods fell a long way indeed. Before he became this unsightly mess, Godwyn the Golden was quite the heroic figure. He was born of the promising union between Lord Godfrey and Queen
Oh
Marika,
yeah,
and he
Godwyn
achieved
died
great
first. I
renown
didn't
for
know
his
he was
bravery in one of
murdered.
their wars, at least.
Wait,
the
who
War
murdered
of the
him?
Ancient
I'm like
Dragons.
guessing like
This war began
I don't know why. I'm
when
guessing Ranni
Grandsax,
murdered him, but I
the
don't
great
think
ancient
that is
dragon,
it.
rained calamity down upon Leyndell, marking the only time in historical record that Leyndell's walls had fallen. It's not
Ranni
clear
did. That's
why
so hot.
Grandsax
I'm
first
sorry.
attacked,
Ranni
but
can do no
fortifying
wrong.
themselves against lightning, the Knights of the Erd Tree weathered his assault, and Grandsax was defeated.
Yeah, I thought
However, this
Godwyn was
only the
Godfrey
beginning,
for like the longest
and bitter
time,
war
but
against the
hey,
ancient
we learned.
dragons was to follow. During this war, the Erd Tree Sentinels had an epiphany that the only way to truly protect the Erd Tree was to become dragons themselves. And so, despoiling the corpses of their foes, the grotesque Sentinels served the Erd Tree, but
Damn.
fought with the claws of the enemy instead.
Dude,
In
that's
the
why
end,
these guys
the
are so
ancient
hard to fight,
dragons
bro.
were routed once again. In a graveyard of swords by the Stormcaller Church, the end of the war is commemorated. Here, we
Oh,
learn
that's
that
so cool.
during battle, Godwyn the Golden defeated Fortisax, called the mightiest dragon of them all. However, he did not kill Fortisax. Instead, he befriended him. And it was in
Oh,
this
wow,
act
what a nice
that
guy.
the powers of the ancient dragons truly became a part of Leyndell. After all, only those loved by dragons can survive the ordeal of cladding their bodies in lightning. So, from an unlikely friendship, an ancient dragon cult was born in the capital city, and the Knights of Leyndell learned to worship the dragons and wield their
Yeah.
lightning. Lanciax, sister of Fortisax, even took human form to better commune with the knights. It was officially decided
Really? Whoa,
that the
where did this
worship of
lore
the
come
ancient
from?
Dragons did not conflict with belief in the Erd Tree, and it was all thanks to Godwyn, commander of the dragons.
Oh, I didn't know he
Golden
had that
Lightning,
title.
and a true child of the Golden lineage.
Oh, that's really cool.
But now let's talk about Morgott and Mohg,
We never got to meet
the
him.
omen twins, who were also born of Godfrey and Marika's golden lineage. First, what is an omen? Well, to put it simply, an omen is an accursed child, seen as impure, as they are born with horns on the body and face. When this happens, the correct
Damn.
thing to do, culturally at least, is to cut off the horns of the omen, an act which usually causes them to perish. It's pretty messed up.
That's brutal,
But
bro.
some omen do survive this process, and some omen are even given a cleaver, crafted specifically for them and awarded as a tool of war, although these weapons are bestowed with a readiness to take them away. We
What
find
the
one
hell?
such omen in an
This
Erd
is
Tree
awful.
camp upon the Altus Plateau. Before you fight it, you might have noticed another omen nearby writhing in its sleep. It's
I've
said that
actually
omens
never
see
seen
evil
these people,
spirits
but
in
'cause
their
I speedrun.
nightmares, and I think this omen is dreaming, haunted
Damn.
by the vengeful spirits of its accursed kin. This brings us
Damn,
to
that looks like
the
that
omen
hurts.
killers, who
Like a
are
paper cut.
horrifying butchers of twisted conscience. They wear these horned masks that make a mockery of the omen's nightmares, and these butchers hunt the omen and amputate their horns. The first omen
Assholes.
killer was named
the hell?
Rollo, a famous perfumer who had to imbibe a physic to rid himself of emotion.
I
so
didn't
that
know
he
there were
could better
assholes in
perform
Elden
his
Ring.
tasks.
What the heck?
Remember, it seems many omen have their horns excised when they're very young. That's definitely disturbing enough to warrant an emotion-killing
Damn.
physic in my book. However, If the omen is born of royalty, then their horns are not cut off,
Whoa.
but the omen is kept underground, unbeknownst to anyone, and imprisoned
Whoa.
for
Oh,
eternity.
that's so cool.
By
I
way
didn't
of
know.
example, you would have seen all kinds of omen confined to the sewers beneath Leyndell. But why are omen considered to be accursed in the first place? Some of them are clearly intelligent.
I think I
so
finished the
what's
game like 3
inherently
times without
wrong
knowing there were
with
sewers.
being born with horns and great strength? Well, it's important to remember, I think, that this curse might only really exist in the context of the Golden Order. After all, those afflicted with omen horns are not able to return to the Erd Tree for rebirth, and are said to be born outside of its grace.
That
But
sucks.
why does the Golden Order disavow the omen? then?
Yeah, why do we
Well,
hate
it's
the
hard to say for
omens?
sure, but my working theory is that it's to do with the Crucible. According to this ancient incantation, horns were once an aspect of the Erd Tree's primordial crucible, where all life was once blended together. And with the exception of a couple of Crucible nights in and around Leyndell, we know that the Golden Order has started to distance itself from most things that touch upon the Crucible. While things like horns, knots, feathers, and scales once grew on the human body and were considered signifiers of the divine, now they are disdained as impurities as civilization has advanced. We
Damn,
learn
that's
this
crazy.
from the knot, scale, and feather talismans, all of which are guarded by omen, or dropped by omen killers, no less.
Oh.
Unfortunately for the Order of the Erd Tree, these once divine impurities seem to crop up in some births, whether they like it or not. Almost like it's a genetic trait, as if it touches upon the crucible at the root of the Erd Tree. And so you have to ask, is it really a curse to be born as a graceless omen? Well, as with most curses in these games, I think that depends on your perspective.
Wait, does the Dung Eater
In
have
any
horns
case,
then?
Mohg
It,
and
it
Morgott
had like the
were
little
omen
stubs.
royalty, and
I thought they were little
thus
poos,
born
though.
into a wretched mire far below the earth, horns and all. Here, they were kept under the strictest confinement. Each of them were
Yo, this
bound
is
with charmed
scary.
shackles that were covered in roots or thorns and bathed in golden magic. It seems very few people were supposed to know that they even existed. Morgott, for his part, renounced and despised
Oh,
his
Dung Eater
accursed
is wearing
omen
armor. I
blood,
see. Okay.
but his brother Mohg embraced it. Deep underground, Mohg stood before an outer god, a being called the Formless Mother, who craves wounds, a being capable of
And they're
bestowing power upon
twins!
accursed blood. In this moment, Mohg's accursed blood erupted with fire, and he became besotted with the defilement that he was born into.
Oh, I
Here,
didn't know that this
before
world
the
hate
earth,
horns.
He would go on to build a dynasty of blood in reverence of a mother, something it seems he never truly had.
Yeah,
As
did
for
America
Morgott,
just like
he was
say
born
fuck
into the
these
same
kids?
accursed fate as his twin brother, but despite not being blessed with grace, he loved the Erd Tree all the same, and
Damn.
even took it upon himself to crawl out of the sewers and become the Erd Tree's protector when the Erd Tree needed him most. In
Damn,
the
what
end,
a
he
what a
rightfully
guy.
became the Omen King and Lord of Leyndell. Omen or not, he was, after all, born of Godfrey and Marika's golden lineage. Of course, the marriage between Godfrey and Marika would be ended, and before long, Marika remarried with another man, a champion named Radahn, who Marika
Damn.
calls her other half. He became second Elden Lord, and the king
America is so
consort,
beautiful.
but he also brought
She
with
kinda
him 3
sucks.
children from a previous marriage that he had with a Carian queen named
No,
Radahn.
I'm very
These
sad about
children
this.
were
This is our
Ranni,
favorite family.
Rykard and Radahn, and they all became demigod stepchildren after Radagon's reunion with Queen Marika. Possessed of his father's flaming red hair, Radahn was fond of its heroic implications and considered himself to be born of a great champion. Yet he also looked up to another man, Godfrey, the first
Oh,
Elder
okay.
Lord, Queen Marika's first husband and the Lord of the battlefield. But Radahn wasn't just the son of Radahn and an aspiring Lord of the battlefield, he was also the son of Rennala, who was head of the Academy of Raya Lucaria
My goat.
and Queen of Caria. So as a Carian royal, inclined towards sorcery, Radahn bent his will towards mastering gravitational magics. Rock sling,
I love
gravity
rock
well,
spells!
collapsing stars.
Yes!
These
Wait,
techniques were
what's
taught
lasting
to him
stars? I don't
in
think I ever got that spell.
the town of sorcery. All so he would never have to abandon his beloved but scrawny steed. That said, before long, his powers would be put towards a more cosmic purpose than simply
Oh,
allowing
wait,
him
that's why
to
he has
rise
sky
as a
magic.
horse.
His mom's a
Radahn was taught
wizard.
gravitational magic by an alabaster lord, a
Oh, her
member
mom
of a
didn't teach
race
her
of
that.
ancients with skin of stone who were said to have risen
Oh,
to
wow.
life when a meteor struck long ago.
His
And
balls are
when his
covered.
lessons were complete, Radahn uttered these chilling words.
Thank you for your tutelage. For now, I can challenge the stars.
And of course,
Wait, that's so
he did
cool.
conquer the stars.
He's gonna challenge the
very
stars. That's such a
constellations
cool
would be
quote.
halted
What
by
the
his
heck?
strength. But of course, you kinda
That's
have
so
to
cool.
ask, why? Why was it necessary to conquer the stars in the first place? Well, I have a couple of theories. Theory one is that it was done in self-defense. After all, according to the sword gravestone, Radahn was protecting Celia. What's more, gravitational magic has destructive power, and many gravitational beasts are proof of that destructive power. A being
Dude, these
named
beetles
Astel
don't
had even
F
come
around.
down to the lands
They
between
will
in the
murder
past
you.
and destroyed a place called the Eternal City. What's
So
more,
much for being
Celians
eternal.
are descendants of the Eternal, positioned right above the Eternal City underground, so there is an argument to be made for Radahn purely defending Celia for some reason here. But it's possible for Radahn to have fought in this conflict and to have made the first move as well. So this is theory 2, that Radahn conquered the stars as a preventative measure in service to the greater will. According to a set of astrologer items, the night sky cradles fate. There's even a banished sect of people called the Nox, who live deep below the earth in eternal anticipation
really like
of
this place.
the coming
It's so
age
pretty.
of stars and their Lord of Night. Long ago, these people invoked the ire of the greater will, so it would make sense that those in service to the greater will might have sought to arrest the stars and put an end to this fate. What's more, Radahn was just a huge fanboy of Godfrey, and
I didn't know
he
that,
seems
wow.
to have more loyalty to the Erd Tree than to the moon. Finally, the telescope item description says that the fate once writ in the night skies had been fettered by the Golden Order, so surely this is referencing Radahn's actions, and it levels the blame at the Golden Order. But putting Radahn's motivations aside, it's a fact that the stars were held back, and that this had great consequences for many, especially for the rest of his Carian royal family.
This is such a cool
The
cutscene.
fate of the Carian royal family is guided by the stars, as is the fate of Lady Ranni, first heir in the Carian royal line. But General Radahn is the conqueror of the stars, who stood up to the swirling constellations, halting their movement in a smashing victory. And so, if General Radahn were defeated, the stars would once again resume their movement, as would Lady Ranni's destiny.
What's her
Lunar
destiny?
Princess Ranni was the daughter of Radahn and Rennala, and sister to Radahn. Interestingly,
girl,
if you
best
look at
girl.
her true body atop the Divine Tower, it looks like she might have also inherited the red hair of Radahn.
Damn,
Full detail.
those red
But
hair genes are
unlike
strong.
her brother, Radahn, she quite clearly took after her mother more, who was Rennala, head of the Carian royal family. The House of Caria has this storied history, one that seems to go way back to the astrologers. In the Carian Manor, we find one of their treasures, the Sword of Night
Yeah, the voice
and
acting in this game
Flame.
is beautiful.
It reads, astrologers who preceded the sorcerers established themselves in mountaintops that nearly touched the sky and considered the fire giants their neighbors. Rennala herself was an astrologer, always chasing the stars in her youth. Then she met the full moon, and in time, the astrologer became a queen, establishing the House of Caria
That's so
as
cool.
royalty.
My goat.
Caria appears to have a matriarchal hierarchy, with multiple princesses and Carian knights that serve as their retainers. Now, however, there is only one princess, Ranni, daughter of Rennala. And at the time of her birth, she would have been set to inherit quite a lot of power indeed, for the Carian royal family was at its height, and her mother was not only queen, she was also head of the Academy of Raya Lucaria, having bewitched them with the enchanting power of the full moon. Leading the young Ranni
Yeah,
by
she
the hand,
bewitched me.
Rennala guided her daughter to a meeting with a moon of her own. What Ranni beheld was cold, dark, and veiled in occult mystery. A dark moon. A
My
sort of
favorite
twin to
spell!
Renala's own
Moon
full
spell!
Moon. You can even see both of these hanging in the sky if you stargaze from the
Oh,
heights
that's really
of the
cool.
moonlight
Wait, that's such a
plateau.
small detail I've never
Another
noticed.
who guided Ranni was a character called the Snowy Crone, who the young Ranni encountered deep in the woods. When you look at Ranni, it's actually the likeness of this snow witch that you're seeing, as the doll that now houses Ranni's soul was modeled after her, probably as a sign of respect. Clearly, Ranni looked up to this mysterious woman. She became Ranni's secret mentor, and she even knew about the Dark Moon, teaching the young Ranni to fear it as she imparted her cold sorceries. So, what do these moons represent? That's just a theory, but I think the moons kind of act as guides. The lost black moon of Noxtella, for example, was the guide of countless stars. What's more, Ranni and Rennala were heavily influenced by their moons. Rennala's moon bewitched the academy that she became the head of, and Ranni's dark moon, for its part,
one of my favorite
also imparts
arenas.
wisdom and leads a voyage in the Age of Stars ending.
Oh, beautiful.
They could even be outer
My
gods.
favorite ending.
And yet, for all of this guidance, Caria and Leonia as a whole have experienced steep decline. Radahn betrayed the House of the Moon. Radahn locked the stars out of motion. The Academy town is flooded to the north. Caria has been ruined in the west, and the stars and moon have gone their separate ways. Nevertheless, Ranni, last princess of Caria, remains, carefully setting new plans into motion. Sibling to Ranni and Radahn was a man named Rykard, who was lord of the Volcano Manor.
I'm very curious about
There is
this
evidence
guy.
that Rykard was friendly with his siblings.
I've heard nothing about him.
Inspired with his sister Ranni later on, and there's even a portrait of Radahn hung in the Volcano Manor.
Oh, I didn't know
As
that.
well as a portrait of Rykard himself before the fall. Item descriptions mark Rykard as stern, ambitious, heroic, and blasphemous. A part of this blasphemy was
Yeah, I always
opposing
thought
the
this
Oath
guy
Tree,
was a little
which actually
weird,
drew
a little
many knights
wonky.
to his banner, for Rykard believed in taking by force, just as the gods did, and clearly many believed that he would usher in a new age. The armor set of the Gelmir Knights reveals to us what were once very loyal soldiers. The crest of red feathers are there to symbolize Rykard's pedigree as Lord Radagon's son, and the emblem upon their chest piece represents a lord who had lofty ambitions. However, as Rykard delved into the ancient secrets of Mount Gelmir, he came across the immortal Great Serpent, an ancient deity that aligned with Rykard's ambitions. And so, Rykard fed himself to the Great Serpent so that he might devour, grow, and live eternally. Alas, this was too much for his knights.
That's
and
crazy.
They believed that their
That's
master's heroic
crazy.
ambitions had degenerated into mere greed. So they searched
All of Ranella
desperately
children
for a
left or
weapon
something?
with
Really?
which they might
Okay.
halt their lord. And they found it too.
I hope this guy
immortal
tells us
serpent
what
had
it
lived
is.
for a
He
long
probably
time,
won't,
and
though.
so there was also a weapon
So
to
this is just
kill
an
it
overview.
that had been designed long ago as well. A serpent hunter. But it was too late.
Thanks for telling me,
As
though,
the
chat.
Lord lost his dignity, so too did the knights lose their master. Not that it bothered
Yeah.
Rykard.
Dignity.
We can devour God together.
Next, we need to discuss Malenia and Miquella. These two. were
Yes!
twins
I'm
as
very
they were
excited to
born.
learn about these two.
No, Rykard, please. Anyway, as you know, Radagon's marriage with Rennala did not last. Afterwards, he returned to the Golden Order and became Queen Marika's
I will
consort.
never
But
accept
what
this
I haven't
betrayal.
yet mentioned is that together they were blessed with two demigod children, the so-called twin prodigies. Now, in the last lore video, I briefly proposed that these two twins were born after the Shattering, after Radahn and Marika had merged together to become a single god. However, I've since changed my mind. I think Malenia and Miquella were clearly born before the Shattering. There's just so much proof that these two twins were a force that were influencing the world long before the Shattering took place. Anyway, both of these twins were born afflicted. Specifically, in the Japanese text, it's said that their births were vulnerable. Miquella was born afflicted with eternal youth, and Malenia, for her part, was vulnerable to rot. Interestingly, Malenia's scarlet rot is actually an outer god. This outer god,
What?
like many others in the game, seems to have an order that is able to be imposed upon the world via an Empyrean vessel, and Malenia was that vessel. And while the scarlet rot is pretty terrible, you can sort of argue that it's got a beauty to it. According to Gowry, the order of rot is resplendent. It's a cycle of death and rebirth. kind of like the lotus flower, which is a flower that blooms anew, beautiful and fresh from mud.
Yeah, that's
I
such a
actually
beautiful
have art of
rod
this flower
spell, the
hanging
flower.
in my home. I always
Oh,
love the
wow.
symbol of it. I actually have lots of art hanging now, and I'm going to talk about all of this artwork that you can buy at the end of the video. Anyway, so Malenia the Empyrean was vulnerable to and afflicted by the Scarlet Rot. There was said to be no cure to this, and while
Dude,
fire
a Scarlet Rot
and
ending would be
consecration
really
seemed to
freaking
be
cool.
somewhat
I think that would be
effective
sick.
at warding it off, Malenia would slowly lose her physical self to the rot. Interestingly, old legends of the Scarlet Rot have persisted in the world for generations, and we learn more about the Rot God from the Blue Dancer charm. The Dancer in blue represents a fairy who, in legend,
Oh, there's a
bestowed
Rot
a
God,
flowing
okay.
sword upon a blind swordsman.
I had no
Blade
idea.
in hand, the swordsman sealed away an ancient god, a god that was rot itself. Specifically, this god was long ago sealed away in the stagnant water that is downstream of the Ainsel River.
Oh, they just put him
underground.
here, okay.
And wherever rot appears, the kindred of rot appear as well. These are pests and servants of the rot. And now, in the current age, these are servants that have been forsaken by Malenia, who is their new goddess. So, this blind swordsman with the flowing curved sword actually
hate this
went
guy.
on to become
Looks so
Malenia's
creepy.
mentor. So
What the
technically
hell?
it's him that we have to blame for this goddamn attack. The prosthesis wearer heirloom tells us more. A talisman engraved with a scene from a heroic tale. Though born into the accursed rot, when the young girl encountered her mentor and his flowing blade, she gained wings of unparalleled strength.
Oh, that's
Malenia's
so cool.
ridiculous attack is called the Waterfowl Dance, and aesthetically it makes sense that, flowing waters would counter the effects of rot. For just as still waters turn foul, stagnation turns to decay. Thus, warriors must remain ever drifting. And indeed, Malenia does resist the call of the rot. There's a lot of evidence that she's not really a willing vessel, but through sheer will and sense of self, she resists the rot.
That's so cool. She's so
Only
cool.
when she is truly pressed in battle will she abandon this will and bloom into the goddess within. Malenia's first bloom was
Oh.
during her fight against Radahn, and releasing her Scarlet Rot was
No.
a last-ditch effort that would forever taint the land of Caelid and cripple Radahn. So
That's so cool.
whatever she was fighting for in this fight against Radahn, somehow it was worth this terrible act.
Dude, that cutscene
In
is
general
so
terms,
cool.
at least, it's clear that Malenia was fighting for her brother. Apart from the times where she relapses into being the goddess of rot, she is known as the Blade of Miquella. She actually goes to great lengths to tell you this. I don't know if you heard. Despite being the toughest boss in From Software history, she's actually fighting for his right to godhood, not her
Wait,
own.
that's so sweet.
In Malenia's own words, her brother Miquella possesses
He's
the
hot
wisdom
and
and
kind.
allure of a god. He is the most fearsome Empyrean of all. For his part, Miquella did a lot to earn his sister's dedication, not the least of which was inspiring her armor and a prosthetic of unalloyed gold. It is not just his sister that loved Miquella, many people did. The Bewitching Branch is an item that you can use.
This is a good time
to
for me to
turn
say I have
enemies
no
into
idea who
temporary
Miquella is.
allies,
He's been mentioned
and
so many
read,
times.
Indeed,
What does
he has
Miquella
done
look like
very
and who
well
is Miquella?
to compel
I've been waiting for an image.
For his father Radahn, Miquella fashioned and gifted to him
I need
a
to know.
fundamentalist incantation called Triple Rings of Light.
Oh,
Radahn
she's a
then
simp.
returns the
Like she
favor,
wants to marry
gifting
her
back
brother?
an incantation called Radagon's Rings of Light. These interactions show some of Miquella's positive connections with his father and also Golden Order fundamentalism. And yet, the young Miquella abandoned fundamentalism.
Oh, did he
for
just
it
switch
could do
over to
nothing
talk about
treat
Miquella, or?
Malenia's accursed rot.
I was gonna say that's a good transition.
This was the beginning of unalloyed gold. So, what is unalloyed gold? Well, an alloy
Oh.
is a composition of metals. So, unalloyed gold is pure
Miquella's
gold,
in the
essentially, with
DLC.
no external
Oh.
mixtures. This
We didn't see
gold
him up to here.
apparently
Okay,
can
that makes
ward
sense.
away the meddling of outer gods. And so Miquella bent a lot of his efforts towards
Oh wait,
creating
Miquella,
an
he's the
unalloyed
wasn't
gold
he
needle.
like the poster
Specifically,
child
this
of the
needle was
DLC?
crafted for his sister to ward
That
off
cool fight in the
rot god
castle?
and forestall the effects of the incurable rotting sickness. We
Oh,
see
never
the bond
mind,
between the
mind,
siblings
sorry.
as well when we
I got it
visit
wrong.
Miquella's Halig
Oh wait,
tree.
no, I got it
We
right.
see
Yes.
exactly
Okay,
the
cool,
one-armed
cool.
woman embracing Charles.
Oh,
Miquella.
like that's so
In this
cool.
place,
Okay,
we
now I
see
have
the
an
biggest
image.
example of
Wow.
Miquella's benevolence. The
Oh, that's
Halig tree,
Mesmer. Wait, never
and the
mind.
society
Okay,
that
wait.
was
No, I'm
built
getting
into the
confused.
brace that supports it. This was a promised land,
That's
seen as a
Mesmer, okay.
salvation to many who were shunned or persecuted, provided that they can actually find the path here, of course. And like many other Empyreans, Miquella seems to have had the will within them to create a new order, and his is an order that's somewhat modelled on the ones that came before it. The biggest thing is that the Halig tree is clearly inspired
I'm gonna have
by
to
the Erd
see.
tree.
I'm gonna have to look
But
up
the
Miquella after
difference
this.
is
I don't
that
exactly
Miquella's
remember.
Halig tree is
I did
said
finish
to
the
be
DLC though.
accepting of all, even those the Erd tree shuns.
Wait, this
Miquella
guy
himself
seems pretty
was once
chill.
embedded inside of the Halig tree, and he watered it with his very own blood since
Oh.
it was a mere sapling. Tragically, however, he was ripped out of this womb during the shattering, and
What the
his
fuck?
Halig tree ultimately
Damn.
failed to grow into an Erd tree, becoming a misshapen husk instead. But
That's sad.
the story for
They
another
just
day.
ripped him out
There's
the
also
womb?
A ton of cut content to do with Miquella, and he's one of the most mysterious demigods.
Oh my gosh, we're
who
gonna have to
I'm
watch
sure
just
we'll
the
learn
Miquella
about
video.
more later. But there is one more thing that I want to mention before I go. It's kind of one theory I had during the making of this video. So Miquella and Malenia each have their own butterflies. Malenia's is the Aeonian butterfly, which inhabit the swamp of Aeonia and are rumored to come from the wings of the rot goddess herself. And I think it's fair to say that Miquella's butterfly is the nascent butterfly, which appears as if it's just emerged from its cocoon for its entire life. This is a reference to Miquella's eternal
Oh.
youth and his cocoon in the Halig tree. But there is, of course, a third butterfly, right? There's the smouldering butterfly. It's said to be an eternally burning butterfly that serves as kindling. Now bear with me, but it's my
Oh
theory
wait,
that this butterfly
Miquella's
is a
the
reference to
femboy
Melina,
who
the
wants
blade
to
of
marry
calling
his
calls
brother
kindling maiden,
in the final
the
boss.
one who walks
Is that
alongside
right?
flame. This might suggest that Melina is a sibling to Malenia and Miquella. Again, that's just a theory, but what I really want to talk about here is that, at the very least, Melina is almost certainly
Oh,
the
that's why we
daughter
no
of
one knew
Marika.
what he looked
We
like.
learned
Oh,
this
that
a
makes
long
sense.
time
Okay,
ago
now I know.
from looking at her
Oh,
name in the game's files, and we can further infer it from her dialogue.
Okay, he's
as
a little
she has a
freaky.
few lines that refer to mothers, and one that says that she was
You
born
seem
inside
kind.
the Erd tree. So, her being the daughter of Marika is also just a theory, but this one is much more concrete than the butterfly one. Although the reason I like the butterfly
I
theory
really
is
like
that
the
it
name
gives us a
Miquella,
hint
really
as to who
beautiful.
Melina's parents might have been. Her parents would have
damn.
been Radahn
Melina and
Marika,
Radahn
which
made
is to
beautiful
say
children.
Marika herself alone, I guess, because Radahn is Marika. Honestly, Melina as a character has only become more mysterious since the game was released, and
Did we
really
do we
only
learn more
scratching
about
the
her
surface
in the
with
DLC or
this theory.
anything?
But
Because
speaking
I
of
know
times
nothing
before
about her.
Elden was released,
Where does she come
back
from?
then,
Who is
a long
she?
time ago, I commissioned this piece from a renowned artist named
She's a very
Marco,
mysterious character,
and
though.
now I'm so excited to reveal it for the first time. This storybook scene is heavily inspired by the early looks we had at Elden Ring, with a red-haired protagonist, spirit companions, a mount that
That's
looks
really
like
cool.
you're
I like
pulled
that
a
he
bit
gets like
like
art
Twilight,
of Elden Ring and like
a few other hidden details
you know,
in the piece.
it's really
This
cool.
piece and all of my other prints are now available over at Spring, where you can actually buy them fully framed and ready to
Whoa,
hang. They
that's really
actually
cool.
Ship with a beautiful frame. The frame itself is a nice black satin finish, and you can even opt for a white border around the print, which I think looks
Sorry,
really
I
classy
like to watch
in
his ads
certain
because he
cases.
puts a lot of work in
I
his
think
videos.
these
So
posters are a cool way to support the channel and artists, and
yeah, these
for
are
you
really
to
cool
actually get
posters.
something in return
Yes,
that
support
will
your
make
artists.
your room look better. So check out my prints.
Sorry,
if
my
you're
room is
interested,
rotting
but this is the
pretty
end.
bad.
And
So
thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.
okay, wow, that was fun. I learned a little bit more about the Elden Ring demigods, like a lot actually. I didn't know there was so many demigods. Thank you guys so much for watching this video with me. I hope you guys had fun and enjoyed it.